Boom.
Are you there?
I am. Can you hear me okay?
Skip, are you there? Can't hear you.
You're that guy, huh?
Skip.
Skippy.
The Skipster. The Skipmeister. Skipperoni. Skip Toodaloo. Yippee Skippy.
Are you just going to keep going?
Skippy Peanut Butter. I ran out right there.
Well, you've taken me back to like second grade, so.
You know, and I did my research on Skip Toodaloo. You know, that was an old folk dance thing that was supposed to bring people together, right? But in today's world, it sounds like British people are running to the bathroom because they call the bathroom the loo.
You know, it's not often that I don't know what to say to somebody.
I told you,
but
you
may have me on that one.
I told you I was going to make this more interesting than a presidential debate.
Well, but like I said, the bar was super low to begin with.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you know, we had paint drying on a wall.
Sure.
We had that nonsense. I think we both would have guessed we were already going to be a bit better than that. Unless you're just going to keep talking over me the whole time.
No, I won't do that. I promise. I had, you know, I wanted to set the stage for jocularity.
Well, it's set. Well, it is a cocktail hour, so I suppose jocularity should go hand in hand with it, right?
It's pretty much every hour for me.
I don't know if you're looking at the comments, but there's already a request that you become the new permanent host. So I'll consider this my swan song. And it's a good thing you set up that Instagram account.
Yeah, it's like, you know, me and technology. You know, when you're my age, technology is a little bit scary because you never know. And the hackers of the world today, I'm just like fish bait. You know, because I have the same password for everything.
That's why the university has an IT staff to keep people like you in check.
They make me change my password every year, and so I like how
you say that like it's this big hassle.
and so I use the same password and just add another number.
Well, that's something you want to actually say on a podcast that's out on the internet.
Go ahead and try me. I have nothing that anybody wants.
Well, I don't know if that's true, but okay. Fair enough.
What's up in the world with you anyway?
With me?
Yeah.
With us?
Yeah. How's things going up there?
Well, aren't we all just trying to figure out from day to day how this pandemic thing is going to shake out or not? Like, that's how I feel like we're just treading water. So,
yeah.
Like, I mean, thank God for this podcast, right? Jocularity, or what else? Like, the best parts of my day are usually either talking to coaches we work with, no matter if they call me Skippy Peanut Butter or not, or like our staff, and that's gotten boiled down to you know, having online calls, doing podcasts. I traveled for what did you just do? Did you set your phone down?
I set my phone down. I'm getting a drink of water. You know, it's Squat-tober. It's Squat-tober.
Yes, it is.
I did my squat workout, and I just haven't. I've been on the run, so I had to get ready for this, and so I had to get stuff done, and I never took time to get hydrated again. So, you know, I got to set my phone down every now and then to get a drink.
So, are you just going to do this whole thing with like holding your phone in one hand and doing whatever? Because that's okay.
Okay.
I'm also hydrating. So.
We might have to. I might have to get up and take a tour here of the facility just a little bit because I have our softball teams should be warming up now, and then then our track team comes in here after they're done. So it's not officially, it can't officially be a cocktail hour for me yet. You know, I have to wait till I get off the clock.
That's fair.
Yeah,
That's fair.
you know, it's what we do. You know, it's strength and conditioning. You open the door early in the morning and you shut the door late at night. First one in, last one out.
So I knew this conversation could go a lot of directions, right? And so I actually sort of did my usual bit of research, right, on whoever I'm talking to.
Okay.
And I had my notes, right, around like being a guy who has to handle an entire program basically solo, right?
Yeah.
And sort of what that was like, because I was trying to figure out, and I didn't actually get to the point of looking this up, how long have we known each other? Do you know that off the top?
2013, May of 2013 is when I met you at one of Coach Hudy's Midwest performance clinics there in.
Shout out Andrea.
Yeah, and you guys were just getting through the basically the functional trial phase of, you know, using putting the EliteForms in, using it on testing it on small teams and stuff like that, and that was a big highlight of that clinic, was velocity-based training, utilization of the EliteForm system, and how she was approaching it and using it, and that was, I think, one of the first times I also met Dr. Phil Wagner with the force plate stuff, and that little trying to integrate that system was the thought process at that time. So yeah, it was, I'm pretty sure it was May of 2013. And then it took me like, I don't know, a month to own one.
That was and that was PowerZone days, right?
Yeah, and
so for people who don't know, describe PowerZone.
Well, PowerZone was a little business that I started years ago as kind of my sideline business, so to speak, from my other profession. And so I was doing that on the side, and I was writing programs for high schools and small colleges, NAIA schools, for different programs. We were going around basically any place that would have us or wanted us, doing clinics, teaching.
I didn't know you did clinics.
Yeah, we were teaching youth. We would go even down into the junior high level, high school level, teaching them, basically going in and helping coaches figure out how they could get the most out of their weight room, getting them to open up their imagination a little bit and using equipment in a different way. But also just the hard, fast principles and techniques of lifting and proper technique. And we always had a movement side to it, a sprint side to it, or a speed side to it, and we also had a nutritional side to it. And trying to tie, you know, movement, feeding the machine, strengthening the machine, and moving the machine, you know, all was kind of the flow to it. And you know, I was very fortunate that when I did that, I could always rely on some pretty decent help, and bring in some names that would actually draw some people out of the woodwork to attend our clinics. And of course, that was Mark. I'd have Mark come in and work our clinics, and then Mark would help me out, and he would bring in some of the other guys with him, like Jeff Kelly and Travis Oakes, and guys like that would come in, and so I was sitting around. You know, at that time, those guys were gone. Mark and Jeff were both with Atlanta. at
So
that.
for people who don't know, not to interrupt, but because some people won't know who Mark is or what
Okay.
Mark you're referring to, right?
Yeah.
So we're talking
yeah.
Mark Simino, who actually has been on before. But so one of the habits I have with this is I'll be talking to somebody who I've talked to a million times, like you, and it ends up like this insider conversation. I get home, my wife's like, no one knows what you were talking about.
I get it. Well, okay.
Yep, so,
okay.
yeah, Mark Simino,
Mark
K-State.
Mark was a kid I had in high school. He went
so
on.
were you working for the high school then?
Yes, I was. I was a what they call Rule 10 coach. I was not teaching. I was a Rule 10 coach, and then I would run off-season weights in the winter after school, and then was a lot of their summer program. Gotcha. And so, when I had Mark, that was just one of those people you're just at the right place at the right time to make that relationship and help a young person. And Mark was a unique person with himself, so that was him giving back to me, helping me with those clinics and stuff. But when those guys graduated, they were touted as one of the best linebacking corps in the nation coming out of K-State. And so I had a blast with them, of course. And then Mark, they were all doing some summer camps, some football camps called Win with Defense, to where they were football camps that they had in Wichita area and around, and just moved them around all the time. And I was fortunate enough they would ask me to help them with that. And so cool. Being involved in that, then I got to meet another great kid by the name of John McGraw, who was a kid out of Riley County High School that was an All-American kid at K-State and played some years in the NFL. Just top of the line guys that number one knew what it took to get there, but they all brought a very different personality to the mix. But they played off each other, and I think that's why they were so good. But I think that's also why they learned from each other so much that I think that's why they all turned out to be really great people. Mark, I always knew Mark was gonna end up doing something with strength and conditioning, because you could tell at a young age he had a passion for it. But at the same time, I watched him grow up to be such a great athlete, but more than that, just a great man, a great father. He's going to make a difference in a lot of kids' lives as he goes through. And he already is. It's just it's fun to sit back and watch that started someplace, and I was just fortunate enough to be a small part of it.
Well,
so that's PowerZone.
You're always kind of understated, right? Sometimes in terms of your influence and impact, and I always like to point out that cliche that it takes a village. Like Mark brought you up, so I know you're not going to accept a compliment, but I'm going to give you one anyway. Yeah. Very clearly, it was meaningful if he took the time to mention it. I'll just say that. So PowerZone.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember, how long did you have a unit at PowerZone before you started conversations with Fort Hays State?
Well, actually, we were in those conversations before.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, when I decided to jump to the performance center side of it and use your technology and start really creating data on young athletes, we had that for about a year. But in that process, Coach Brown, Chris Brown, who's the head coach here at Fort Hays State, who came from Washburn University as their defensive coordinator at Washburn University. My son was actually a walk-on football player at Washburn when he was there as a defensive coordinator. And then Coach Cooper Harris is our defensive coordinator now, was their linebacker coach back then. So those guys were here. So I had some other athletes that had came down here and played. They were calling me, wanted me to come down to a practice. So I came down on a Saturday and watched them practice and stuff, and saw Coach Brown, talked to him. They were in the midst of putting up this great indoor facility. And I was talking to him, and I said, man, well, that's going to be a great facility. What's next for you? And he goes, I need a strength and conditioning coach. And I said, okay, well, where do I sign up? And that relationship kind of just started right there. And we had worked it. It was a process. It was a process. I actually spent a semester coming down, volunteering time, working with their football team. I put them on a program that we generated through, printed out cards through the strength planner, through the winter of 14. I'd come down a couple of times a week and spend time in the weight room and work technique with them and teach and help coach. And by spring break, they wanted to remax them, and we did that. We saw the improvements that I thought we would see. And then we turned around and they tested them on the turf, which I didn't know about. And their verticals, their 40 times, their pro agility times, their 3-cone times, all were getting much better. And so he bought into me, the athletic director bought into me, and we finally got it through. And you know, it was like getting hired on the Friday before Memorial Day and starting the Tuesday, you know, the next Tuesday.
Oh, wow.
And so
I feel like it was quick, but I couldn't remember how quick.
I went home. I didn't even know. They just said, come down and talk to us and need to talk to you. And of course, I've been talking back and forth to him for quite some time. And Curtis Hammocky, you know, our athletic director down here, just, you know, he knew me, but he really didn't know me. So I think he was kind of leery on the subject. But when Coach Brown bought into what I was doing, then he was bought in. And then the president of the university at that time was Dr. Ed Hammond, and he was in the retirement process, and they were trying to hire a new president for the university. And he said, I'll create the position the minute they hire my replacement. And that happened. They brought me down to talk on that Friday. I actually walked into a multiple person interview. You know, it didn't really shock me.
Did you not know that was going to happen?
I did not know that was going to happen, but at the same time, it really didn't shock me. I sat down. They asked me, you know, some very pointed questions on philosophy and everything else, and I was just straight up forward with them, told them what I thought and how I would do things, and walked out of there with the job. And so driving home, I thought, well, this is one of those things I'll surprise the wife with, right? That probably wasn't the best way to handle that one, but anyway, got home and told her that she had to hurry up and pack up and move, that we were going down there on Tuesday, and that didn't work. So I slept in my office for like 8 weeks down here while she was finishing up her job responsibilities up there, and before we could find a house down here. But everything in Hays, Kansas, and with Fort Hays State has been great. It's worked out great for us. Some things have been very last minute, but it's always been, you know, right there for us. I have I got great administration I work with that totally trust us, and I guess the biggest way I can say that how much they trusted us was when they allowed us to come back in June under COVID. But then at the same time, you know, they just, I got great coaches I work with that are intense and passionate about what they're doing. And I always find those two traits to be very beneficial for coaches that are trying to drive a culture of a program and try to drive their programs to the very best that they can be.
Was there anything about taking over like a D2 program like that, like kind of once you got into it, like surprised you? I mean, it's not like you hadn't been around athletes before. You had a plan. But were there any surprises that crept up where you were like, well, I expected these 5 things, but this one kind of threw me for a loop?
I think the biggest change, number one, was that, when you're at a high school level, small town high school level, you've been around those athletes for the years that I was, you actually see them grow up. And so who's coming before they're coming. You know what I mean? You see these kids grow up in around in your neighborhoods, and you know who they are. You know who their parents are, and so you knew what was coming, and it wasn't like you had to learn who they were. And that was the biggest thing, I think, for me coming to D2, was that I had to figure out who people were. One of the things I always tell, like my GAs and my interns, is, you got to know your audience. You can't go in there. You can't go in there and just fly off the handle when you don't absolutely know who your audience is. And so when you know your audience, then they know you a little bit, and everything we try to do is build a trust factor. I get coaches to trust me, but more than that, I got to get athletes to trust me and believe in what I'm doing, to buy into the system and the culture that I'm trying to apply. Once that happens, then we got a pretty special thing going on. We're not having to fight them. We're not having to look for them. The accountability is easy. They want to be in the room. They want to get better. And that was an easy thing to do when I was at Smith Center, because of the years that we had done it and the success that we'd had. Coming down here to where Coach Brown was bringing this program out of the bottom of the MIAA conference and trying to work ourselves up. The year before I started was his first winning season at 6-5, and since then we've been 7-4, 9-3, 9-3, 11-1. We've never looked back, but we're still trying to climb the mountain. We haven't got to the top yet, and that's still the number one goal. But just getting to know walking in and from scratch and not really knowing. I knew some of them because of coming down and working with them, but my first summer here, for the first day, I had 20 guys, and I mean, man, this is going to be a long summer. And then the word got around that I wasn't totally crazy and that I knew exactly what I was doing, and they were making progress. And then those numbers grew, and then I had 40, and then I had 45, and then I had 50. And since that first summer, we've just been rolling. Even under COVID this year, I had close to 90 athletes back June 1, and I thought that was great. I was not expecting that, but they were buying in because they were buying in to hope to have a season. And if any chance you can get, you got to work to make yourself better. And so that was special. I mean, that was different, but for the first few years, I was always going through those pinch me moments. Can't believe I'm sitting here at D2 University when I came out of a small high school. But we were making it work. You used to going out on the high school field on a Friday night was just, I'd done it enough. The intensity of the game was there, but the crowd noise and everything like that just was never there. Going out here now, and instead of 400 or 500 people, you're going in front of 4,000 or 5,000 people, and it's more of a college atmosphere. That's intense. I love that. I mean, that game time stuff is that's kind of the when you hit competition. Now your butt's on the line. You know what I mean? Now you're going to find out if you did things right, and that's how I self-analyze myself. That's where my self-accountability comes from, If we don't go out, if we don't perform well, if we don't perform and compete well, and I don't have anything to do with coaching individual sports or positions or anything like that, but I stand behind every team I train, and if they're successful, then I must have done something right. If they're not successful, I need to find a way to help them become successful, and do something then I'm not successful with them. And I, even though I don't have anything to do with how they compete, I have everything to do with their physical ability to bend and move, and how strong and how quick they can make those movements as far as them being athletes. And that's where EliteForm comes in huge for me.
Well, we're glad to help. I did want to ask, like you mentioned, just having to learn who the athletes are is like, does Fort Hays State like recruit pretty broadly, or like where do you have kids coming in from? Because I think a lot of people think D-II, and then they're going to think, well, it's probably pretty regional.
Yeah,
but that's not always necessarily true.
No, I mean, our surrounding states, Kansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Nebraska, Colorado, would be the majority. We're into Texas, we're into Arizona, we're into California, we're into Florida, we're into Illinois. If there's bodies, we're looking, and we get everywhere. We have foreign exchange students. I mean, I have a basketball player from Iceland. We have soccer players from Paraguay. We had a football player. We'll still have him from Denmark. Under the COVID, he just decided to stay, and then was going to come back over, and then found out that we weren't going to have a season, so he just basically opted out. But we'll get him back because he's a big kid. He's a good looking kid that's very, very strong. But we're all over the place, and it's just that we have to get. Thanks to our university, we have some scholarship systems and those sharing states. If you're scoring so high that you can get in-state tuition if your grades are good enough, instead of other things. So we're marketing everything we possibly can to try to reach out to be able to get the best athletes possible. But at the same time, we're still very Kansas based. I think there's like 60 kids on our football team from the state of Kansas. Gotcha. Out of it right now, out of 110. So and there might be more than that. I don't know. I just pulled that number out. It might be more than that. It's more than half.
Well, we can round up or down. It's fine.
It's more than half. I know that.
Gotcha. So normally, I think this. I was kind of thinking about this before we got on. Normally, I avoid conversations that sort of kind of go into, does our stuff help with recruiting? But at D-II in Hays, because how big is Hays?
Man, I knew somebody was going to ask me that sometime. Is it 20,000?
Is it that big?
15, 20,000, I think. I don't know. I mean, I get lost in it. I'm not trying to challenge
your number. I just don't know.
I get lost in it.
I'm not sure that qualifies.
Well, that's true.
I'm just kidding.
When I get lost, then I got to ask my wife where I'm at, because I'm directionally impaired. Whichever way I'm facing is north.
Well, but she's also pretty solid. So, I mean, you brought her
to hang around with me for 38 years. To hang around with me for 38 years, she's got to be solid.
Well, anyone who would willingly attend a strength and conditioning conference,
yes,
that's not a strength and conditioning coach,
no,
and for example, stand around and chat with me on the floor of the conference, has to be a pretty amazing person.
She's my biggest fan and my biggest critic all in one.
it's probably a good balance to have.
Well, and that's all right. I just need to know which it is before I walk in the door.
Well, if you'd stop dropping surprises on her like we're moving to Hayes, Kansas, maybe that would be different.
I think
No,
I actually think she was totally thrilled about it because she knew I was doing something that I was going to be able to be full time at and very passionate about. I don't think she realized the hours that it was going to take to get the job done and to still get the job done. But you know, it is what it is. You know, if you got
Sure.
if you got passion about something, you don't put a clock on it. You know what I mean. You just go.
Right.
So
I understand the problem, and as does my wife. So I'm
is
completely
that your wife Susan that just came in? That just joined the conversation?
I didn't see the name come up, but probably. Yeah.
All right.
So,
I feel sorry. I feel sorry for her.
well, I bet you're not alone. All right, like the entire EliteForm crew is like, yep, 100%, 100%.
No, going back to your statement though about does it help recruiting? EliteForm helps recruiting tremendous for us because unless to the day you tell me different, I'm standing on that. You know, we're the only D-II university in the nation that has it, and that always makes eyes really big. But you know, you put a bunch of high school kids in front of it, and you do a demo on it, and you explain that, you know, that's real time feedback, and that's measuring the bar, and you show them the video replay of it and stuff, and you know, it's like they hit the ice cream factory with you know, it's on the house. They get into it and love it, and we try to use it, you know, to the best of our ability to get what we need out of it, but also, you know, the things, the modifications and the changes you guys made with the competition side of it and everything else, it really helps drive the weight room, especially for me, having so many teams and, you know, 14 different teams and 450 athletes. And I'm the driving force behind our strength and conditioning program with help from, right now I have 2 GAs and then some interns. But, you know, that helps bring energy that I might not necessarily have to supply. And in today's world right now, our athletes are needing, it's harder for them to bring energy because they're just not, they're not motivated because they're not competing. And so we're trying to find different ways to help them compete, to get them back into that level. And so, you know, it's a big asset to us. Plus it's just the pure record keeping, accountability, and then the information that I can draw on that points me in the right direction of what's next. You know, we're at this level now, what's next?
So I should know this, and I don't, so I'll apologize. Do you guys not have games scheduled?
No, we're not scheduled. We had to. There's a few teams in our conference that decided to play some games, so they're moving forward with practices, and the key word is that they're trying to move forward and play some games. There's a lot of obstacles in the way for them. Our administration, you know, we'd went through painstaking process back in April, May to get ready for June. And then they went through the same painstaking process in August about, you know, if we were going to have a season, and, you know, when it was decided that we weren't, then, you know, they were looking at the alternative things. But when this came up, and it was basically being influenced by the Pac-10 coming back, the Big Ten coming back, and some of the D2s jumped on and said, we're going to come back. our administration did not want to change what they had spent so much time thinking about and making that decision on. And I'm not going to say that everybody else is wrong. I'm just going to say that if you push through the process too fast and you don't pay enough attention to the details and the steps that you need to take, I think the NFL's already showed us that these, no matter how strong and how athletic these bodies can be, you skip a step and it shows up. And I hope it doesn't happen. I hope all these schools don't have a tremendous amount of injuries, but that would be a concern to me that we're trying to push the process too fast to get back to compete. Because, that, man, when we brought kids back in June, I expected them to be really weak, way out of shape, and somewhat overweight. And I was not surprised. They did not disappoint. It took us longer than normal to get them back to where they needed to be. And the same thing happens toward competition. It's going to take longer than you think to get them back to where they need to be. And the NFL did not have the preseason. They did not have the amount of contact that they were used to. And I think it's part of the reason why it showed up to be more, especially week 2, a lot more injuries than what we'd ever seen before.
So how are you, kind of trying to dose getting people more fit on campus with the idea that there's no date where you have to play? Well,
and that's tough. That becomes a mind game somewhat. Every day we have opportunities to get better. All right, you either take advantage of them or you don't. But you have to understand that once those opportunities are gone, you can't necessarily expect the same opportunities to come tomorrow. And so I want them to lock in and be in the moment in the day to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to make ourselves just a little bit better every day. It's that old 1% saying, whatever that is. It's just make yourself better every day. And you have opportunities, and we're working the full spectrum. I don't care if it's in the weight room. I don't care if it's morning run drills, if it's position work, if it's classroom work, if it's film work, whatever it is. You have an opportunity to make yourself better. Don't let COVID be your excuse. I'm sorry. We can do all kinds of things, and we can blame it all on COVID. But at the end of the day, we still got to be accountable to ourselves. Did we take full advantage of the opportunities that were in front of us, and did we make ourselves better from that? And I feel like a preacher sometimes, but let's be honest, that's not really going to happen.
Well. Preachers give speeches and motivate people in a particular way.
Yeah.
You also have to do something similar, right? Just motivate people in a different way. So I don't think that's the worst analogy ever.
The day of reckoning is coming.
If we could just get a game on the schedule,
That's
the day
right.
of reckoning would be there.
I'm afraid it's not going to be till late August of 2021.
So do you guys have, as Fort Hays State, things in place where, if I'm a senior, is there sort of an extension of my ability to play and come back, or how are you guys handling that?
Yeah, because there's no games there, and actually it doesn't get counted as a season unless you play 50% of your games. So these guys that are playing or trying to play are probably only going to play maybe 4 games. That way it doesn't count as a season.
Like a shortened season.
Yeah, and so technically it won't affect eligibility. But the NCAA has granted waivers So I believe they have. I get so much in today's world. We get so much compliance stuff. I can read it and it's gone, and it's just. So I try to lock in and do my job and try not to get out there. But I know that our seniors still can have a senior year. It's creating a tremendous amount of challenges for budgets and everything like that, especially within D-II, about that you got scholarship money on these seniors, but you can't pull that scholarship money, but yet you only have so much that you can on next year's recruiting class, and the equivalencies that you have to deal with didn't change, and so we have to. And that's another great thing about Fort Hays State is that our overall administration is creating more and more different levels of academic scholarships and things like that we can stock on, that we can pile onto some athletics, to make things more appealing for an athlete to want to come to Fort Hays State. So
there's always that balancing act of if you can just provide some support, the label doesn't have to be an athletic scholarship, versus academic, etc.
Yeah, and it's just you're trying to get them as much as you possibly can get them to be the best offer that they can get, but it's creating a lot more challenges, I think, than what everybody expected. We went through that last spring to where we gave waivers to the spring sport kids, baseball, softball, outdoor track and field, and so we went through that on the spring side. Now we're doing it on the fall side. Winter sports are sitting there going, well, we never got a championship tournament and stuff, but we had the full season, and hopefully that's same true. Thing. Hopefully right now we're on task to start our basketball season on schedule, and not getting it pushed back. Right now, we should start playing right there around Thanksgiving time with our first games. We still got to get that organized on how we're going to travel, how they're going to travel, and all the behind the scenes stuff that has to be done with testing and everything else. But our athletic staff and our team physician and everybody that we're working with does such a great job with that stuff. Let them do their jobs because that's their job to do, and I just sit there and go, if you need my help, let me know. So, I got too many other things to think about than to try to do somebody else's job. I just need to do mine. Sure. Yeah, but it all works together. That it goes back to when we have injuries, they take care of the injuries. When those injuries are ready to return back to me, then I just take the functional strength that they've got and start to move it back more to athletic strength. And then our return to play is much better. It's an open line of communication between me and the head athletic trainer, but it works. I mean, it's what you have to do. It's the way the system is designed. So,
does your head athletic trainer ever use our equipment or other tech in saying, okay, here's where I see where they were, here's where they're at now, and kind of try to objectify some of that coming back, or is that not anything you guys do?
Not really. I mean, we've talked about it. We've talked about baselining some numbers. For instance, a split squat or elevated Bulgarian squat, to where we measure on just a given load, measure the speed off the right leg, measure the speed off the left leg, and have that in our back pocket in case we have somebody, that blows a knee or has a major thing, and that we can go back to through their rehab, coming back to return to play, actually having performed that test again to see where they're at. But when you start thinking about that, there's just a long list of variables, you know,
For sure.
because you're talking about a longer period of time, that could be coming into play on that also. So, I mean, it's things that we've talked about. It's not anything that we've actually done. It probably, you know, when you're D2, you know, you got to be.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to shove a process on you.
You got to be.
It's just something you and I hadn't talked about.
You got to kind of be one of those jack of all trades, master of none type people, you know. I work with so many different sports. I have to walk through. I mean, football comes natural to me to work with football players. I know what I can do in the room with them. You know, the way I can attack their intensity. When the women's tennis team comes in, I can't necessarily do the same thing. So I have to kind of walk away, look at my schedule, going, okay, now I got to calm this down just a little bit, and you know, talk a little bit different. It's knowing your audience.
I was going to say, it goes back to what you said earlier, right?
Yeah, it's knowing your audience. But every now and then, just something happens, and then the football coach in me comes out, and then everybody knows I'm a little bit upset.
So you have a couple of tells where the kids will be like, okay.
Yeah.
I think we all do.
It's when that voice goes up. You know what I mean? Everybody says, "Why do you yell all the time?" I said, "I'm not yelling all the time. I am communicating with a high volume."
Well, it's a big room.
Well, it is, and they always got to have the background noise in it with their music, which I totally get.
What are your rules on music?
It's got to be clean. It's just that's it. I don't care what you're playing. It's got to be clean. I'm always asking for country music Friday. That doesn't work. But no,
Friday may be the wrong day for that.
Yeah, never on squat day. Never on squat day. There's got to be heavy metal, headbanging stuff. No, I will. It's just got to be clean. You know, they jump into their playlist. They jump into Pandora. I don't care as long as it's clean. If there's a dirty word that comes over that telephone is mine. I've threatened to throw them out in the street. And and I got to apply that rule just on the basis of that. I never know who's going to walk in the door. You know, we have different sports bringing recruits over to see the indoor facility, to see that weight room. Every now and then, you know, my biggest concern is that, you know, our president of the university, Dr. Tisa Mason, walks in there when something really bad's going on, and then I'm pretty sure I'm going to be out the door there. But she just, you know, it's common sense. It's being responsible. You know, if you got your headphones on and nobody else can hear it, that's in your head. That's up to you. But if it's public, then it needs to be acceptable by public. And I'm old school. Bad words are bad words. I say them, but I can control them when somebody walks into the room. I can't necessarily shut that music off fast enough. So they pretty much got it figured out, because I've tortured them and said, all right, you haven't figured it out, we don't got any music for a week. And then they're really complaining then, because then I start singing country western.
Well, I wouldn't mind a video of that. So
no, it's never.
Now that we have this Instagram account, I see some good uses for it down the road.
Not gonna happen. Not gonna happen.
Somehow I didn't expect it would.
No, but I get it. I mean, that's this generation is driven by that. They have to have a lot more motivating things in their lives than before. But I think that's a lot of technology. Does that make sense? that because they've grown up with technology
Well,
and they've had access to everything all the time,
they're
that,
definitely used to like a higher stimulus, right? All the
yeah,
time.
yeah,
And so that's one of the things like with our stuff. It's pretty natural for kids to kind of just have a screen sitting there. Whereas,
yeah.
you and I aren't the youngest people ever. And there were no screens. And there
Hey,
generally wasn't any music. You just went
I,
in and banged.
yeah. And I know how old I am. And,
Good.
it's just a number. I mean, seriously, it's just a number.
Sure.
My knees feel that old, or older, but my heart still has me as, I don't know, in my 30s. I still feel like I can get down there and grub with them a little bit. Um, it, I'm learning that I can't near as much as I used to, but I haven't had anybody call my bluff yet.
Well,
But,
until somebody does, no one's going to know, right? That's the whole point of bluffing.
yeah, well, but age has a tendency to sneak up on you. I had like a 38-year record or consistency of being able to bench press like 3 plates plus for 38 years. And so right before COVID, back in February, I said, okay, I'm going to knock this out early to claim number 38. And I did. But I also damn near tore my pec doing it. And since then, I've just had lingering problems with it, with my shoulder and everything else. And I think when I actually did it, I probably strained my rotator cuff and everything else in there. So now I'm babying that thing back, and that have been for quite some time. And but everything's coming back to normal again. So then I just decided to invest my knees into Squattober. Because when I squat, actually, my knees feel just a little bit better. And so we're going to see I've been through 2 days of it and still walking. So
nice. We've got three guys doing Squattober.
yeah.
So, yeah. So Kyle's doing it. Good old Nikolai Teslift is doing it, and then we have a new guy on the crew. I don't know if you knew that, Matt Grosso, who's out east.
Okay.
And he's also doing it. But yeah, it's day 2.
Sure.
So we have these team meetings every Thursday. I checked in yesterday. We checked in about it yesterday, and
yeah. Oh,
everyone's eyes got opened a little bit to what it's going to mean. So
my GAs sit there and they're just looking at me going, that just sounds totally crazy. And I'm sitting there going, yeah. They go, if we were doing that, you would tell us we're crazy. And I said, yeah, probably right. So why are you doing it? I said, because I still think I'm a little bit crazy. I'm going for it.
What's wrong with that?
Why not? Why not? Why not?
100%.
I mean, what's the worst thing that could happen?
I always default to, if you weren't doing anything, like, you'd be kind of a soft puddle of a human, right?
Yeah.
So if you go for it and something happens, you're just going to default back to that same state.
Yeah.
Maybe have to recover a bit.
Yeah. But I mean,
not doing it's boring.
Well, the old athlete in me always wants to find a challenge, and actually I always want to find an adversity. I want to find something that I have to, that makes me want to fight back, that just, drives me a little bit more, because especially in our world today, and I quit hating to bring COVID back up, but it's made our whole society just rather depressing. And,
For sure.
And people are much more negative. They are much more willing to just, I call them cave people. They cry about virtually everything. They do it loud and proud. And I am you know, I need to face an adversity that I can actually attack myself, because I can't go out and attack people for being, you know, depressed and being anxious about things, and you know that those require calming moments, and I don't want to be too calm all the time. I'll fall asleep.
Yeah, maybe there's a reason you and I have gotten along so well over the years.
I just,
I'm completely with you.
I like the challenge, and I don't care how old you are. I don't care how out of shape you are, or in shape you are. The body needs challenge. The mind needs challenge. That's how
That's
you
why you're
stay
still in
young.
your 30s.
Exactly. And I just got this one knee that's about 90, and they told me, 21 years ago, was that, no, 19 years ago, when I had surgery on it, that it needed to be replaced, but they wouldn't replace it because I'd wear it out. Um, Now, almost 20 years later, I'm going to keep using it. It's still working. I'm going to keep using it. Yeah, you wake up with aches and pains, and you move around with aches and pains, and um, I don't know what that's really like anymore, because I've been doing that. And when I listened to you guys, when I listened to Hudy's podcast with you, and she started talking about that hypnotherapy, I'm sitting there going, yeah, maybe that's for me. And then I
Well, and she had a
remembered,
knee thing too,
yeah,
so she understands.
then I remembered I'm not Andrea Hudy, and I don't live in Austin, Texas, and um, uh, I'm old. She's not quite that old.
Well, I think if there's one affliction a lot of people in our world suffer from, if you want to say suffer, it's no one thinks they're that old. Like
Yeah, I
everyone's
know.
still, there's still that athlete they used to be. They're still like they're around young people or younger people, and they're physically active. So I think it all kind of feeds into exactly
I
what you're
mean,
saying.
you obviously know when you lose a step, and it's really obvious when you lose two or three steps. But at the same time, it's still no excuse not to run, not to train, not to stay in shape, and live your life the way you want to. I'm not afraid of getting old. I, actually, people say you're supposed to get smarter as you get older. That's not really working for me. Um, it's just I just rather just stay that young acting, old looking guy with the mustache thing. You know what I mean?
I'm with you there. Although
Uh,
my wife wants me to shave, it's too gray. But Instagram's going to
well,
kick us off in a second.
okay.
So thanks for coming on. Sorry to sign off kind of short, but we
No,
got like 10 seconds.
it's
So
been a blast. I knew I
appreciate
wasn't
it.
having trouble talking to you.
Yeah, I wasn't worried about this one. That's why I didn't have many notes.